Is it texting and watching a video at the same time?
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm texting and watching a video at the same time.
You can't do that.
You can't do that.
And yet I'm doing it.
Yeah. Nice.
Introducing the new Samsung Galaxy S3.
When we came home and looked at the phone and saw there were 12 messages, I immediately thought it means somebody died.
Colleen Tondorf remembers the day Thayer Academy lost its headmaster and beloved friend, Shelley Tyre.
How did you take the news, Colleen? How did you put it together?
I cried for 3 months in a row. It's hard. It's a hard thing to think that that could happen to them.
And not just anyone, but someone so full of life as vivacious, energetic Shelley Tyre. What had happened to cause her to drown while scuba diving off the Caribbean island of Tortola? Back home in Jamestown, Rhode Island, the newly widowed David Swain, always a man of few words, shared few details, even with good friends like local marina owner Bill Munger.
Do you remember the first time you see him or what you said?
Yeah, I gave him a hug. You know, there was tears, both of us.
But the talk here along coastal Rhode Island was that David Swain wasn't acting the way a grieving widower should. To some people, he seemed detached at her memorial service. To others, it looked as though he was living it up on the $600,000 he received after Shelley's death. And a few months after losing his wife, he started dating again. A story began to buzz on Main Street about how Shelley had been found underwater missing some of her diving gear. Some locals who knew their way around scuba thought it didn't add up.
Was the town divided then?
Certainly, if you went up and down the avenue here, that you would find, you know, people on both sides of the issue.
Could it be, was it even remotely possible, that David Swain had had something to do with his wife Shelley's death? That was the question burning in the minds of Shelley Tyre's parents, Richard and Lisa. Ever since Swain had returned from Tortola with their daughter's body, the Tyres demanded answers from their son-in-law, answers that weren't forthcoming.
The first moment I heard it, I kept saying over the phone to him, but you had the buddy system, you were there, you have the buddy system, you were there. And he just kept saying, I wasn't there.
So they're saying you're the expert, you're the buddy,
yes.
You're the caretaker
They were
of our
wondering
daughter. Why did you leave her?
Yeah, why did I let this happen?
Swain's first face-to-face meeting with his in-laws after coming home ended in a shouting match, as Swain recalls it. And for the next 3 years, their suspicion of foul play only grew. So much so that in 2002, her parents filed a wrongful death suit in civil court, claiming Swain was involved in Shelley Tyre's death.
Nothing that happens in the court takes care of our pain and our loss.
I'm very, very emotional, yes.
The Tyres hired experts to thoroughly investigate Shelley's drowning. After traveling to Tortola and examining Shelley's scuba equipment, the experts formulated this scenario, which they then reenacted on videotape. That David Swain attacked Shelley underwater, approaching her from behind, shutting off her air supply, and then holding her down until she drowned. It was a shocking allegation indeed, and one that was never seriously challenged, because David Swain's lawyer fell ill, and Swain himself chose not to appear in court.
Why didn't you take the civil suit, it seems to outsiders, more seriously? It looks like you kissed this off. And it was a very serious event.
In the civil world, he who has the most money will almost always win. And here, not only did they have the most money, I had no lawyer. So where was there any chance of me winning?
At the end of the trial, though, David Swain did make a surprise appearance and a last-ditch effort to defend himself.
It's a grand story, but it's just not true.
He then called his sole witness, his daughter Jennifer, who described how her father showed genuine emotion when Shelley was lost.
You told us the story about Shelley's drowning. You were tearful and angry.
But it wasn't enough.
Have you reached a verdict?
We have. David Swain was found responsible for Shelley Tyre's death. The jury awarded her parents $3.5 million, though Swain couldn't pay because he'd filed for bankruptcy months before.
We have now found out what we wanted to find out, what exactly happened.
The friends who'd stood by him throughout were shocked by what they saw as nothing less than a miscarriage of justice.
There was no cross-examination. There was no, nothing went on. It was totally a one-sided trial.
But that civil verdict did catch the attention of the authorities a world away. Down here in Tortola, the British Virgin Islands. Officials here had ruled Shelley Tyer's death back in 1999 an accident, but the fine print read, an accident unless proven otherwise. That judgment against Swain in civil court gave the authorities here fresh prosecutorial ammunition. Tortola reviewed the evidence from the civil case and made an extradition request. 8 years after her death, U.S. Marshals showed up at the dive shop and arrested Swain for the murder of his wife, Shelley Tyer.
David Swain is headed back to the Caribbean, but this is no vacation. Swain is being held without bail.
It's almost a miracle that this is happening.
This time, Swain wouldn't take any chances. He would launch a vigorous defense. But he'd now have to plan it from his new home, a stifling cell in Tortola's Balsam Gut prison. A fortress high up on a bluff facing the ocean, where the view can't be beat, but comes at a price no one wants to pay.
When we come back, a criminal trial begins with some surprising revelations. Another diver in the life of David Swain?
So this is the classic motivation, the classic ingredient of murder sometimes. The other woman, huh?
Yes.
When the last dive continues.